really could have done a lot more with this team to teach them about life, because they spend 4 years with me, and they're going to spend 60 years without me, married, husband, father, boss, whatever. So what can I teach these kids in those 4 years with me that they're going to carry the next 60 years of their life? So my philosophy and strategies and beliefs totally changed in 2014. I just remember sitting down thinking about it. Prior to that, I coached off the scoreboard, I coached to win games, and I wasn't coaching the person.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy, Phil, and Jerry. I'm David Friedman. I want to thank you for coming along on this ride with us.
You know, the game knows, the game of baseball knows, the game of life knows. If you're treating it right, respecting it right, treating your teammates right, respecting your teammates, when it gets down to it, the game of baseball knows, can this team handle a gold medal? Are they going to go through things after they win a gold medal and not be great humans afterwards? Or, because the game of life and the game of baseball knows those answers. And if we're treating the game right and treating our teammates right and respecting it right, then that ball will be 2 inches fair or 2 inches foul.
Yeah.
The safe call or out call. So if you teach it in a way that the game knows, and the game of baseball knows, the game of life knows whether you're doing what you're supposed to do or not. And it will reward you in its own time. Not when you're ready, but when the game knows that you're ready to handle that success.
You know, we had such a good time talking to Coach Brian Madsen that I thought it would be a good, actually I shouldn't even say it was my idea. It was the idea of one of his coaches that's on his staff to bring the whole staff on the show. So I reached out to Wes Brooks, reached out to Josh Ellison. I was told not to call him Josh, I was told to call him Jelly. And I reached out to Roger Wright. And so we're gonna do a little series here, and the first coach that we have on is Wes Brooks. And let me tell you a little bit about Wes. Okay, so he was the former head coach at Wellborn High School in Anniston, Alabama for 4 years. And then he moved to Oxford High School in Oxford, Alabama. He was there for 18 years. In that 18 years, he won 2 state titles. And just to give you an idea of how good this guy is as a coach, when he left his position as head coach to become the supervisor of safety operations and athletics for Oxford City Schools, they had to hire a former D1 college coach to replace him. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Oh, great to be here. Just enjoy talking the game of baseball and life, and both go hand in hand. So I'm looking forward to getting started, and thanks for having me on. And Brian is such a great leader in everything that he does. Just to know him and know everything that he's about. Just proud to be a part of what he's got going on.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I enjoyed our conversation immensely. And it seems like that there's a little bit of a relationship that has now been built there. And that doesn't happen with people that aren't really good people. He's a great guy. From, my little bit of contact with him. What a great guy. So you're a lucky man to have him as a friend.
Yes, sir. So I guess first time I met Brian, I think you talked about it on your show. So we were doing the 12U Open probably in 2016, 17, 18, somewhere along those lines. And we needed an extra guy. And Nick James knew Brian, through family, and got him to come down and work. And the Brian's first night down there, so humble, just willing to do everything, feed balls out of a bucket onto a tee to hitters, and just to kind of notice that work ethic about him. And he didn't say much. And we were sitting down at the lobby after everybody kind of went to bed, and I bet we talked for an hour or two just about his path and his life. And I shared my story and he shared his, and we still talk about that conversation to this day. And just to kind of have each other's back, and we don't really get to see each other a ton throughout the year, except through text messages and Zoom calls and FaceTime messages or whatever. But you almost feel like brothers, because we do argue from time to time too. So, but we love each other too, and he knows my family and I know his family, and we'll get together at the ABCA once a year, or some sort of USA baseball event, or his kids will see our kid. Matter of fact, I hosted a USA Baseball Community Coaches Clinic in 2019, and he flew to Atlanta. I picked him up from the airport. He spoke on practice organization, spent the night in my daughter's room, in my daughter's room at home, and I brought his son Derek. And the next day I took him to the airport, and he flew back. So
That's
he just flew
fantastic.
in for 20 minutes at a camp. Now, who does that, right?
That's
So,
fantastic. Yeah. Before we move forward, because obviously there's a million things I want to talk to you about. There's something that I want to mention because you had posted something about it on social media, and I just wanted to say to you that I want to give you my sincerest condolences for the passing of Doug Creek.
so
For those of you out there that don't know, Coach Creek was a member. He actually was a player on the 1987 18U national team. He played on the 89 collegiate team for USA Baseball. He played at Georgia Tech. He was drafted by the Cardinals and spent 9 years in the major leagues. And then he went on to spend a lot of time involved with USA Baseball. He did many different things for them. So I just wanted to, give my condolences to you because I know you were friends.
Oh, yeah. So we worked the 13U ADP Athlete Development Program, the very first one that Butch Chaffin was the on the field coordinator, and called several of us to come work the event with him. And it was 14U ADP. And Doug was our pitching coach or our pitching coordinator on that during that week. And man, just to hear him talk about his passion for coaching hitters and pitchers, and Dylan Adkins, was a senior this year, is one of his players. Back when he was 11 and 12, I had worked a 12U event at the Open, matter of fact, and he was calling and say, "Hey, how Dylan do?" And then a few years would go by. Dylan's 15. Hey, how Dylan do? So, and then Dylan was a senior this year, draft pick. Just a great player, and just very passionate about getting to know his players. And then he was kind of humble and shy at first. Doug was, and once you fed him an alley oop and he got to talking, he wouldn't stop. And just to hear his voice, and man, that came out of left field and out of nowhere. My mom passed away of cancer in 2019, and that's just stinks. I hate to see anybody have to go through that, and
Yeah.
it almost takes a miracle to beat it once it gets to a certain level. And
Yeah.
he fought a good fight, and his legacy, Doug's legacy, will live on in Baltimore, in USA baseball, and in the game of baseball forever.
Yeah.
And I was just fortunate enough which our lives crossed paths there for a little while, and man, what a great person he was. So yes, deepest condolences to him and his family.
Yeah. Like I said, I after I saw you had posted that on social media, I said, I can't let the episode go without at least making mention of it. So,
Amen.
so let's move on to the really the first thing that I was curious about is, you'd been coaching baseball for so long, and now you moved, and now you're into a supervisory role.
Yes, sir.
It had to be a difficult decision to make, number one. And number two, is it easier or is it more difficult doing what you're doing now?
As a coach, you might deal with a player showing up late, or you might deal with an attitude, or not picking up in their locker after themselves. And so as a being over a facility and being a supervisor role, there's you just have those same situations come up with adults, but you kind of have to handle them in a different manner because some of them might be older than you, whereas players are always younger. So you kind of educate them and empower them uh, to understand the reason why that all doors should be secure when you leave, or why we do certain things, whether it's the roll-up doors being pushed up, pushed down because air conditioning pulling in hot air from the outside or whatever. Now we're on that side of it, which I never saw when I was just the baseball coach.
Sure.
I had our supervisors above me and athletic directors coming at me talking about eligibility. And I'm like, man, but now I kind of see that, but I'm trying to educate them. And once they get educated, almost like teaching a hitter in baseball. If you're doing a drill and that hitter does not believe in his mind it has carry over to the game, I really don't know if he's really doing that drill to the best of his ability. He's
Right.
just doing it because you said so.
Right.
But to motivate him, you want to give him a bucket of drills, let's say 20, and 6 of these are going to help you on the field. Let's find which 6 work best for you based upon how your body moves
I love that.
and in what type of hitter you are and your plan and your approach. And let's come up, and I'm on your side. Like a lot of players think coaches are against them. You have to let the player know that you're on their side and you want them to succeed, but they also got to know they, as a coach, you want everybody on the team to succeed. So you might have 3 shortstops. You want everybody, you want all 3 of those shortstops to succeed. You just don't want the one you're coaching now or talking to now. So, and as a player, you got to take that. You can't be a comparator. You got to be a competitor. So as one of those shortstops, I can't compare myself to the other 2. I've got to be a competitor with inside myself. And how good can I be compared to how good I was yesterday and where I want to be? So the mindset, a real quick story, 2014, we won a state championship in 2012, and 2 years later, there were some of our guys doing some not so great things in college or off the field, or wasn't fulfilling the path that I thought that they would. And so it hit me like a ton of bricks in 2014 that I could have done a lot more with this team. I really could have done a lot more with this team to teach them about life, because they spend 4 years with me and they're going to spend 60 years without me, married, husband, father, boss, whatever. So what can I teach these kids in those 4 years with me that they're going to carry the next 60 years of their life? So my philosophy and strategies and beliefs totally changed in 2014. I just remember sitting down thinking about it prior to that, I coached off the scoreboard, I coached to win games, and I wasn't coaching the person. I then realized that if I can coach the man and the person first, I'm going to get a better baseball player as a byproduct of that. If I can teach him and coach him and I can trust him and we have a good relationship, he's going to get that bunt down in the 6th inning when we need it the most, because he's going to understand that's a sacrifice, and there's no greater honor than to sacrifice for another brother on your team, and teaching them and educating him how that works in the world and in life. So I took a different route after 2014, and obviously we still don't know all the right answers, but I feel like we were chasing the right answer in the right direction after that. But prior to that, I was probably not that. But you learn, you grow, and some of the kids that saw coaches a little bit softer in the last 2 or 3 years that I coached in '05 and prior, or around that time, they still appreciate the person that I was and how hard I was on them, and they still talk about that. But at the same time, they understand that I learn and grow, and society changes too. And probably the biggest thing that I feel like kids, players, people need today is they just need to be loved. They just need to be loved. And if they know that they don't care what you know until they know that you care. And if they feel that relationship piece, I say this all the time when I speak. As coaches, we've got to say that we got to sell the right ships. Everybody wants to win a championship, but it's the relationships you build, the friendships you make along the way, the leadership we display, the sportsmanship that we show, the followership that we show. All of those things have to be done as well, and win championships. And that makes you can have a tough season and get put out early in the playoffs. And if you're focusing on those relationship piece also, you're going to have tears at the banquet. You're going to have tears after that game. And if you're not coaching those things, you're going to have some grudges. If you're only concerned about winning and you don't care about the person, they sense that. And on the flip side of that, if a player does something he's not supposed to do on the weekend, but he comes to Tuesday's game and hits a leadoff double, and I high five him in the dugout, and he knows that I knew what he did on the weekend, he's going to be like, oh, well, coach only cares for my performance. We want you to perform, but we want you to perform as a championship person off the field. We want you to be a champion in the community, in the weight room, in the classroom, when you're with your buddies at the mall, when you're with your girlfriend, and most importantly, by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what is your mindset when you're in your room by yourself? And nobody's perfect. And we don't expect them to be, but we just want them to chase being the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, moment after moment after moment. And then that relays on pitch after pitch after pitch. And we're going to fail it, but we got to learn and grow from that failure and move on to the next moment, the next pitch, or the next day.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody out there could see me right now, from what Coach was just saying, my head was just shaking. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, to sum it up, you had mentioned about 2014, and I think that we all have a point where we realize that we need to be transformational rather than transactional. So, I mean, it's happened to me. You just mentioned that it happened to you, and I believe all of that, what you were just talking about, that if we coach that way and we coach the player as a person first, then the winning's going to take care of itself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you would mention too, that I also feel is one of the harder things nowadays to teach kids is how to fail. Okay. There's been so much pressure put on these kids to perform and to do well, and once if they fail, they feel like they let mom and dad down, or they let the coach down, or and the more we can make them understand that, hey, it's okay. Like you said, just as long as you don't do something that's disrespectful or something that, that yes, we should be upset with you about. You make an error, you strike out. Who cares? I mean, put it behind you, go to the next play.
Yeah, that's tough to teach for a 12, 13, 14-year-old. That's one of the toughest things, and here, like, let's say you're successful as a 10U, 11U player, and you're hitting 600, you hit 20 home runs. Now the curveball comes into play when you're 12, 13. It's a whole, it's like hitting puberty all over again. And that's when it's tough. And I really think as coaches, I was having a conversation last night to a guy, and just a parent, a baseball parent, and I said, how much of baseball do you think is mental? And just about everybody's answer is 50% or more. Some say 90%, some say 50, 70%. Well, if we know that the mental game of baseball is a huge part, then how much are we practicing that? And a lot of people can call it a lot of different things, and I don't think you can put your thumb on what you call it: peak performance, mindset, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. But you got to have those classroom meetings in a classroom setting. Just about every Power 5 school, every SEC school has a classroom meeting to where they go in and they focus on how to handle failure, how to get back in your present moment focus if you give up a leadoff triple as a pitcher and gain 7 of the World Series, you give up a leadoff triple, it's the 9th inning, the game's tied. How do you get back to your peak performance in that 12, 13, 14 seconds before the next pitch? Which you got to be intentional about having a routine of release, relax, refocus. Release the negative energy, relax, take a deep breath, and what's your power phrase to move on to that next pitch, like quality pitch, or I'm going to shove right here, or whatever it is. And so teaching a 13-year-old to have short-term memory is a really tough thing to do. And it's like, it's like teaching a guy hitting. So if that's tough to do, and what do you want your players to do on game day? If you want your players to not show negative body language, to hustle on and off the field, to back up throws, to do the little things that add up to these victories, they've got to be measured during your practice. They've got to be coached and talked about just as the mechanics of your swing or the mechanics of a pitcher. And I think that was the change that our program took on in 2014. We started every day in the classroom. And so 2 years went by and they heard this voice of Coach Brooks. They heard this voice of telling them how they should act and how they should perform and how their mindset should be. And I thought I was going on, and we spent several $1,000s on programs and curriculums on mindset and mental game and peak performance. And after doing that for 2 years, those sophomores were now seniors. There was five of them. And I said, you know what? This year I'm going to try a different route. I'm going to teach these seniors the lessons and give them and be the resource for them. And let's just say, whether it's present moment focus or body language or whatever the topic is for the day. And I'll give them an article, a YouTube video, a handout, an exercise, and I would let the player teach the other 30 kids in the classroom.
Love it.
And that way, they're not always hearing my voice. The kid might stutter. He might fumble over his words, but the kids will laugh and they remember that. And the kid tells a story. And I'll always say, like, how does that apply to you? How does it apply to this team? Give me an example, good example, bad example. And man, our team started growing. And when our freshmen saw the senior up there in front of him talking about release, relax, refocus, moving on to the next pitch, what it means to win pitches, what's important now, and all these things that we constantly talk about as baseball coaches. Then you talk about an environment change. And so I'm a senior and I'm saying this. Well, if I'm up and standing in front of the room and I'm preaching it, then I have to do it. Right.
Sure.
And everybody knows, you learn 20% of what you see, 10% of what you write down, 20% of what you read and all that. But if you're teaching it, you remember 90%. So I would call those seniors on Sunday night and give them one day of the week. And they would go through their lesson, and then I would be there for them during the day and I would help them. And I think that's when our program started taking off as far as the mindset of the heartbeat, the pulse of our team. And I think that's where we started heading in the right direction. And now that's holding ourselves accountable to teach the lesson. And you don't want to be known as the guy who just had, one handout and had two sentences on it. Then guys started making these PowerPoints and all these things to where I had 90,000 other things I was doing, trying to do batting lineups and orders and practice organization, where these kids, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to talk about motivation. And I've got all these articles, and I got a Derek Jeter video, and I've got, Joe Torre, a podcast with Joe Torre, whatever. So I was giving them the resource, and I think that's when our program started taking off. And if you're a coach out there not doing it in the classroom first and going over mindset and the mental game, then I think you're missing out on the self-actualization to achieve everything that you want to achieve as a coach and a play. And then next thing you know, a pitcher walks a guy with, lead off walk or whatever. And I might show some negative body language, like hit my pitching chart. And I look down at the end and the kids are looking at me like, coach, so now they're holding me accountable. They're my players.
Yeah.
So that's when you're doing something right, is when the coach looks at you, when the players are looking at you like, coach, you got to show him some love right there. Like, that's not the answer. You can't get on to him because you're expecting him not to. So that was good.
Couple of things that I want to touch on. What you just said is, number one, I learned from Chaffin, okay, that if you have, like my coaching staff this year was just me and a coach and an assistant coach. Okay. If you only have that, well, how many seniors do you have? And, I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, how many? So you got 7 seniors. Now you got 7 assistant coaches, 7 more.
Amen.
And, then I started looking at it a different way where, hey, yeah, and this year in particular, because this is my first year as a varsity coach. Prior to that, I was a JV coach. Okay. And towards the end of the season, it was pretty rewarding when I started seeing my seniors starting to teach my sophomores and my juniors. It was awesome. Then the other thing that you just mentioned about, yes, banging your clipboard, stuff like that. This is something that Sheets taught me. Okay, so we were talking about it, and I said to him, I have to get better at not letting my players see my emotions. I said, it drives me crazy because I know it's wrong, but I can't help it. So I said, I'll bang my hand down on the bench or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, Jimmy, he goes, try this. He said, take your hands. He said, fold your arms. He said, and take your fingertips and dig them into your ribs. He goes, instead of letting them see it, you're getting it out. And
Yeah.
bingo. It's such a simple thing, right?
Yes. So I got two daughters. Sawyer, she's 19. She's a sophomore at the University of Alabama. Skylar's 14, and she's cheerleader, flag football, soccer, drama, theater. She's involved a lot here. And so growing up, prior to 2014, I wouldn't let my girls, kind of come around practice. But after 2014, I would let them in obviously not when they're changing, but I'd let them in the locker room. And my youngest daughter, which she's 14 now, but until she was about 12, she would come in the dugout, sit by me, and she would give dummy signals. And every now and then I would actually tell the catcher, I was like, hey, for the first batter, she's going to be live. And so she'd have her helmet on, she'd have her Oxford jersey, little jersey on, little Diamond Doll jersey. And I'd be talking to the pitcher and the catcher before the inning. And a guy took a picture of her. And when I spoke at Kentucky last year at their convention, this was my last slide. And it's her just looking up at her dad, me, talking to these other two players. And I didn't know that she was looking. But whatever I was saying right there, you could tell that the picture, she was soaking in what I was saying. And I'm saying all this to say, we better be doing it the right way, because one of those kids might ask my daughter's hand in marriage one day. And if I look at it like that, I had 4 years to mold my the guy that might marry my daughter. And it might not happen, and that's not a hope of mine, but
No, but
what
it's,
I'm actually doing if I miss those opportunities over a 4-year period to teach him to be the best human he can possibly be. Because if I express my anger in a negative way towards a player, well, that kid might express his anger towards my grandson one day, So it was a different perspective for me to look at it because I had girls. I'm thinking, man, and again, stuff like that hit me like a ton of bricks, in 2014, that I better be doing it right, because if I'm going to allow my daughters to be in the weight room, to be in the dugout, to be around the locker room, to be at our team meetings, I remember some of my guys going and get her off the bus and walk her to the field house and walk her in the classroom. Like, what kind of conversation is that 18-year-old boy having with my 10-year-old daughter getting off the bus all the way? If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a coach, then that conversation would be very healthy. Yeah. So that kind of put things in a different perspective to me. And then my oldest daughter, was a senior in 2023. And when we won a state championship, and you can just see her, some of the pictures, she's right up there against the net. She ran our social media account. She was the president of our Diamond Doll team. We had 46 Diamond Dolls, so she organized all of the events that were going on throughout the week, or glow stick night, or we had Peyton Watts. He had P-Dub glasses that wore the big Mickey Mouse glasses, and she just did a really good job with all of that, and and I got the opportunity to coach her in flag football a couple of years ago. We started flag football, and I coached her, and she was my Mike linebacker. She was my middle linebacker, so she ran the defense. And she had really enjoyed me coaching her because I was showing her team and her the same passion that I showed when I was on the field with the boys. So that's a cool story.
But I mean, let's face it, and we all know this, that's really what we're doing. We're creating, good husbands, good fathers, good business people, good community people, because and this is like something that I wish more parents would understand, is that these kids are, they may have a high school career. There's a smaller amount will have a college career. Very few of those even have a pro career. So the idea is that, and my brother used to say this all the time, every player's career ends. It's just a matter of when. Okay. And for the majority of baseball players, it ends a lot sooner than most parents think it's going to end. So again, to your point, yes, we're supposed to be building human beings. It's always the person first.
And we can't, like, don't get this wrong. I like to win bigger than him. I'm the most competitive person that I know, and I'm a warrior. When that first pitch happens, I'm a warrior in that dugout. And and I do think it's the process part, the 80% of your mindset should be pitch by pitch by pitch. The 20% should be, I call it telescope and microscope. The telescope should be, the championship at the end of the year. The microscope is the next pitch. So, but if you teach kids to be a champion in that 12-second moment of that next pitch, then those bigger victories are going to take care of themselves. But it's hard to get a teenager to buy into that because they want the instant gratification. They don't see what they're doing on a day. The catchers don't see the blocking drills is going to help them down the road to keep that runner out of scoring position. And it sometimes is boring, but at the same time, as coaches, we got to find ways to implement the fun aspect of the game, because you don't ever want to come to a practice where baseball practice is not fun. You have to incorporate drills, and nothing is more fun than competing. You got to find a way to compete and measure, and post. Measurement equals motivation. So if you post those measurements and hold kids accountable when they don't meet the standard, if we got to get 80% of hit and runs done, and this, 6 hitters come in and they got 6 pitches each, and they got 36 pitches, and they got to execute 30 out of 36. Well, if they fall 4 short, then they got to do 4 down and backs, and you can't let that slide as coaches. And sometimes it's easy because it's time consuming and it's convenient to just, hey, we'll run after practice, and you forget. But if you create an environment, for example, in our classroom, we got a black team and a gold team because that's our school colors. Our black team has to do pre-practice setup. The gold team has to sweep the classroom. Okay, and then a coach watches that gold team sweep the classroom. Another coach goes and watches the black team set up practice. Then the black team gets loose in right field, and the gold team gets loose in left field. And one coach is watching the right field. One coach is, one group is doing dynamic warm up, and this goes back to the leaders of the team running those stretches. And then so you're either 2-0, 1-1, or down 0-2 already. You get 1 point for that victory. And then we go into our drills, and then and we finish with a competition drill, the jungle drill, triangle drill, whatever we finish with. And now it's 3-2 or whatever, and your scrimmage starts. So we got the process score to where we measure every pitch, and one team wins that. We got the situational game, your bunt coverage and first and third and squeeze plays, and then we got the actual score of the inter squad. So one team wins practice 7-5, okay? Because we want to teach the competitor. We don't want to be comparators. We want to be a competitor. So one team, the team that loses, goes out and runs their 15, 60-yard sprints. The team that wins does post-practice cleanup. Well, let's just say the team that's running sprints, they sprint and they run hard, but the team that cleans up, they leave a couple things out of the shed. Well, they're down 1-0-1 going into tomorrow. Okay. So we come to the bar and the class down 0-1 or up. So everything becomes a competition, and that's just kind of way, it's about competing. And then you find your leaders, once you lose 2 or 3 practices or 2 or 3 days, you kind of find your leaders trying to figure out how to win these things. And now you got guys, you don't even say clean up. They're grabbing the broom and sweeping the floor before you even say the goal team's got to clean up. So kind of create that competitive environment is huge. But as coaches, you got to have the love and trust and the care talks throughout the day. Because, me and my brother were the 2 biggest competitors growing up that I know of. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the success that I have, just because of the competitors that we were, whether it was shooting basketball or baseball or whatever, playing chess. So we try to create that competitive environment too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that's important. And I know throughout my career, that's something that I've struggled with a lot, is how to create that competition in practice. And I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. But again, it's something that I know is very, very important, and that's why I work so hard to improve it, because it's really the whole thing. That, and another thing that you mentioned is loving your players. Okay, I believe that I mean, aside from everything, I don't think anything is more important than those players knowing that you care about them, period. Then whatever the X's and O's are and situations and whatever you're teaching them otherwise is secondary to that.
That's right. So it was 2016, and we had an FCA Fellowship of Christian Athletes guy come and speak to us, and we were in the weight room, and then we had a breakdown, and I said, all up, and they all put their hand in, and I said, team on three, tell somebody you love them before you leave. 1, 2, 3, team, and you got 20 guys telling each other they love, and that's kind of silly and it's funny, but the next thing you know, you send a text message to a player, and he sends back, love you, coach. The next thing you know, you're at graduation and you hug a guy and I love you, coach. Or next thing you know, a guy signs a scholarship and you just hear him say that, and I know, saying it and the actual doing is one thing, but when kids don't see that much these days or get that much, and some of them don't even have their dads around, and we spend more, even if they do have their dad around or mom around, we spend more time with them than they do.
Yeah.
So they're putting a lot of trust in us to be that brother, sister, dad, friend, but also have the discipline. And if we didn't, hold them accountable, then that's really meaning we don't love them.
I agree
So
with that. And that's another thing to try and make parents understand is that, yeah, I'm holding your son accountable. It's because I care about him. If he does something wrong, when I say hold somebody accountable, I say he did something wrong. I'll use as an example, missing a sign. Okay.
yeah,
You miss a sign, I'm going to be on you. Okay.
yeah,
That's something that I'm going to hold you accountable for. Right. You boot a ball at second base, I'm going to pat you on the back and say, let it go, bud. Let's go on to the next pitch. That's the way it's done. But again, I think that if you don't hold players accountable for those things that you should be, then you're
yeah.
doing them a disservice. You're not doing your job as a coach.
That's right. That's right. So post game talks, when we win, we have a good post game talk. If we lose, we wait till tomorrow and kind of talk about some things. But and then the pitching piece is, first pitch strikes, 2 out of the first 3, win the 1-1 count, treat 2-2 like 3-2, stay away from 3-ball counts. 12 pitches or less. All those things are measurements that we would measure and go over those things. And obviously, if we walk a lot of guys, we probably didn't win a lot of 0-0 counts. And then the hitters, the offensive philosophy: score first, extend the lead, answer back, have a big inning and finish. And then the base running, we always feel like if we steal 3 stolen bases, we're like 92% win percentage.
Yeah.
And that's stolen base or dirt ball reads. So there was every different ways for Oxford, for us. We get these ideas from college coaches that we go visit or hear speak at the national convention, but we look at our numbers and how are these things that we're measuring speaking to us, and where are the big things and where are the little things that can add up to those big things. And we chart just about everything. And the next thing you know, the guy in the dugout that's on the 4th hitting chart or whatever, he's like, Coach, that's 4 quality at bats in a row. And we found out that if we ever got 5 quality at bats in a row in a game, we were 100% winning.
Oh, really? Makes sense.
7 or whatever it was.
Right.
So we might chart too much, but once the kids understand the numbers speaking to them and the kid says something, then it kind of gives you a little bit of energy right there. Like, hey, let's go. That this bat means a little bit more. But even though it's 2 outs and nobody on, we had 4 quality bats in a row. Let's get the 5th one in a row. And so that's a really cool thing that we started implementing, and having coaches that even the chart guys. So if I look at the starting lineup and my name's not on there, immediately it should turn to what can I do to help this team win, and that's keep the quality of bat chart.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing is what is your response? And so in our parent meetings at the beginning of the year, we have 2. We have one in August and one in January. The one in August is more of a broad thing to get our Booster Club started and get us thinking about some fundraisers. But it's mainly to talk to our parents of pitchers and have that 365-day pitching plan mapped out to show them when the downtime needs to be, when the bulk in the weight room needs to happen, when do we need to do our long toss, when do we need to on-ramp to lead us up to our bullpens, pitch counts, and ultimately we want you to be at your very best on April 1st, April, May, June, and July. And our season would end in late May, and everybody's like, well, why do you want them to be at their best April, May, June, July? I'm like, we don't want them to be on their best on opening day. We want to be at their best on April 1st. So we're going to work 24 weeks back from April the 1st, because that's when our area starts. Our playoffs are in May. Colleges and pro guys are watching your sons pitch in June and July because they can't necessarily come to a ton of our games because they're playing at the same time the high school season is going on. And then your August and September is your downtime, your rest period. But I get it for some unsigned seniors that might want to go throw in a fall tournament in Fort Myers or whatever. So there's some individual things, but you got to understand as a coach that that pitcher needs his individual pitching plan for the year. Students have their individual education plan, their IEPs. Well, hitters need to have their individual hitting plan, and pitchers need to have their individual pitching plan. Then our next big parent meeting would be in January when we come back from Christmas. I'll tell you what, we did something probably 2016, 2017 that has stuck with me, and I think every coach should do it, is we pass out an index card to those parents. And we do the same thing with the players the next day in the classroom setting, but we pass out all these index cards to the parents. And we traditionally, just like everybody does, hey, parents, write down your 3 individual goals you want your son to achieve, and write down the 3 team goals that you want our team to achieve. And the parents write them down, and they flip over in the back and write that, and they turn that in. And I give them out another index card. I said, if your son does not achieve any of those 3 goals, and our team does not achieve any of those 3 goals that you wrote down, what type of experience do you want this program to have an effect on your son? What are some of the experiences that you want your son to experience if those goals don't happen? And you'll get responses like, I would like weekly feedbacks. I would like for my son to experience what it means to be on a team. I would like for my son to be a part of a brotherhood, like everybody's got each other's back. I would like for my son to have fun. I would like for, so I get all those responses, and I let our assistant coaches read them. And I'm like, guys, that's what we're coaching for. There's only one team going to walk away this year. We hope it's us. But if it's not, what type of experience are these kids going to have? Now, when you do win the championship, which we were fortunate enough to win 2, when you do win 1, it's great. And now, like last night, our left-handed pitcher that threw in probably the biggest game of the year in 2023, they're in a fantasy football group, and he's the commissioner of last year's seniors. There's 12 of them. And he asked me to be in the fantasy football team this year. So now we're all talking trash to each other, and we got a group text going. I call it the long gold line. Our color is gold. And each senior class, I'll have a group text, and we name it the long gold line. It's just going to go on forever, right? And man, we're just having those conversations with those players. Yes, we won a championship, and yes, that was great. But even if we didn't, they've got that, piece of why we're coaching. And so you do it with the players the next day. Hey, players, write down your 3 goals. If you don't achieve those goals, what type of experience do you want to have? So you take the player's perspective and the parent's perspective. You show that to your assistant coaches, and you have those posted in your office. Guys, that's what we're coaching for. So it kind of, and I stole this from Butch too. He's got where are you at Wednesday and find out Friday. That hearing him say that, where are you at Wednesday? He puts a chair in the corner of the weight room, and you're allowed to come talk to him about, like, hey, coach, I noticed I hadn't played outfield in the last 3 games. You just used me as a pinch hitter. So I stole that from Butch, and the parents wanted feedback, players wanted feedback, so I gave them 2 opportunities during the week to get feedback. And then so like on Mondays, we'd get a leader of the community to come in and speak to our players. On Tuesday, which I stole from Sheets, Toolbox Tuesday, learn how to shake hand, learn how to take notes, learn how to speak in front of a group of people, tie a tie, change a tire, change the oil in your car, get some battery cables some jumper cables to help somebody when they got a dead bat,
Yeah.
So those are valuable life lessons. Wednesday, wisdom, we get an FCA person to come and speak. Thursday is team competition. There's some sort of tug of war, some sort of, relay race. And then Friday, 5-0, we get a police officer or a private investigator or a bomb squad guy to come speak to us. So, just in that classroom setting, because they don't always want to hear it from Coach Brooks. So those were our weekly. And then on Sunday, we did our 168. It was like an Excel document of 168 hours in a week. We'd plan it out for a week. So I would take that plan after talking to players and talking with our coaches. of when our pitchers need to throw, when are we inter squatting, who's starting Thursday's game, and I would take that and put it in a newsletter and send it out to our parents so that they can get the weekly schedule, who's throwing, what we're going to have dinner at the Strobel's house on Tuesday night. We've got a fundraiser Friday night at the pizza joint. Here's the directions to the game on Thursday, highlights from last week from all the players. So, maybe player of the week, a Diamond Doll player of the week, a coach of the week, and you get that all out there. And then it becomes an event when you're having a home game. These things are announced over the intercom, and of course my daughter was a big part of that, of coordinating all these with the Diamond Dolls and celebrating with signs in the dugout, and it was just a really good experience. And and next thing you know, you're winning games, and that always helps. But if you finish the season and you're 17-17 and you're 500, at least you coached in a way that impacted the kid's life and helping him understand the failure. And I know I'm talking getting long-winded on this, but I enjoy talking about our program, and I feel like if we got 1,200 kids here in Oxford and 600 boys, and I feel like all 600 would benefit in a positive way if they were part of our program. That's the tough thing about doing tryouts. So we would do this camp out, and we always did the camp out on the night of the Heisman Trophy giveaway or announcement, because that's a night that not many kids are going out of town watching any college football. I think Army-Navy plays, and maybe Notre Dame will play somebody, but that's really the only game that's happening that day. And it's a transition period between football and basketball, football and wrestling. So you got almost everybody. So I'd invite the dads, and I would say it's almost like our bachelor party, and I've got a PowerPoint called Married to Baseball, and I kind of correlate the whole season around, a marriage, but that was the bachelor party. So all the dads in our program and all the players in our program, we pick a place to go. And as soon as we get there, we go over our mission, vision, principles, and core values for the year. We had a Bible first, Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous each year. We had a one-word focus, and which was strong. Our core values was discipline, intensity, relentless, and teamwork, which was the acronym DIRT, which we had a dirt bag of the game, and we had a T-shirt. So we have all these things, and it just becomes a great experience. Then after the game, we would give out the thing called a Hammer Award, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so you have your dads, and we'd get dads speak about certain topics, and would have a meal, and then we would play capture the flag, glow in the dark, capture the flag. So we would dip this string we'd get those little glow sticks and cut them up, and all the glow stuff would dip down into a bucket. We'd put the string down in the bucket overnight and put the T-shirts, which were flags, down in the bucket, so that when we stretched that 1,000-yard string out, that was our midpoint, and we put our flags 100 yards away from each other. And that's when you see leadership. So the object is to go on the other side and get the team's flag and bring it back before you get tagged. And you see all these kids being leaders in that environment. And as coaches, we sit back and think, man, that's the guy that we want in our leadership council, which we would meet every Thursday after practice and do a book study, whether it's the book on legacy or the power of positive leadership or VIP. Our freshmen get the Pride program. Our sophomores and juniors get like a emerging leadership program that we would do on Mondays. And then I meet with different class on each night. And I know it's a ton of stuff to do. And but having my family there and involved in it, I was able to spend time with them. Like they would go to our dinners at coaches' houses and stuff like that. And then we had the season start. So the third Wednesday in January, we had this thing called the Iron Jacket Challenge that I got from another thing from Butch. He called it the Anvil. We started that in 2014, and this year we had our 11th year of running. And here's the cool piece about this. And the Anvil, the Iron Jacket Challenge, is a really difficult obstacle course that everybody competes in. The cool thing about me stepping back into the supervisor role and Coach Jansen taking over the baseball team is all the players talked him into still doing the camp out and still doing the Iron Jacket Challenge. And I thought it was cool because it's something really, really tough. So why would kids want to do it? Well, the way we presented it to the players is the anvil is a and the piece of metal is the player. So the hammer is the coaches and parents and teachers chiseling away at your life, right? And when you dip that piece of metal in fire, that's the adversity that you go through in life as a baseball player. And when you put that piece of metal in water, that's the victory that you experience after you become resilient and overcome that adversity. So we had 21 different events. Some are hard, some are easy, similar to outs in a game. And the top 10 would get T-shirts only if everybody finished. And so it was really neat that and it became a community-wide thing. And so we had 300 people. We'd start out on the football field and run a mile and then move over to the baseball field and flip tires and then go to the practice. So we had all these people on campus, and it became a real, like the Diamond Dolls were holding up signs and cheering. But it was crazy. It was like an Ironman challenge. But it was just something neat that everybody had to do. It was difficult and it was hard. And so there was meaning behind it. And so we'd have the anvil, the Iron Jacket Challenge T-shirts. So in 2023, we took the role, instead of the player being the piece of metal, we got this big sledgehammer, and our assistant coaches painted it gold because that's our team color. And we called it the Gold Standard Hammer. And so why did we do that? Well, we felt like we had 13 seniors. We felt like we had a lot of leaders on the team, a lot of older guys. So in order for our team to continue to be good for years to come, then they had to hold the standard, like hold the other players. Leadership, it's one thing to come early, stay late, bust your tail in the off season, and do everything the coaches ask you to do, be the first one there, last one to leave. But it's another thing to hold your teammate to that standard.
Sure.
So we felt like that was the hammer was chiseling away at our other teammates' lives and helping them the Oxford way, perform the Oxford way. So we ended up giving our hitter of the game the hammer of the game. Okay. And I'm a University of Alabama football fan. My daughter goes to Alabama. I'm a big Nick Saban fan. And so part of my job as director of football operations is taking and all this is going to tie together, is taking our better football players on our high school team down to these college games on Saturdays. So when you do that and you go in there with these recruits, well, these college coaches are showing you their locker room. So they got this pyramid, the success pyramid that's got these tiles. So, and let's say last year Alabama played Texas, right? Well, they lost. If they would have beaten Texas, that tile sitting in the middle of the locker room after the game, and they sign it if they gave 100%. If they won, if they lose, then they give that towel to the juniors on the team, and that junior, the leader that's going to be the emerging leader, like the team captain that's a junior, he carries it in his bag in the weight room, on the practice field for an entire year. Okay. And when they match back up, because I think they almost did match back up with Texas, if they match back up with them, they're bringing that tile out. Hey, we didn't sign that. We didn't win. So, but if they did, then they hung it up on the wall. So what we did, we had a team that put us out of the playoffs the year before. And so we had that tile that we didn't get to bust with that hammer. Now, we don't disrespect the other team. We wait until the next day, and in our locker room, we get to, once we eliminate that team from playoff contention, then we'd smash that hammer or that tile. So my daughter got the Diamond Dolls to decorate the tile to the other team's logo, just like Alabama had it on theirs, because she would go down on those visits too. So that was something that we did. So after the camp out this year, we did the John Gordon one-word focus. Was the team was strong, and we gave these little stones to each player, these little river rock stones that were about 3 inches long. We gave them out to each player. And Joshua 1:9 talks about the 12 stones at the Jordan River where he crossed, the river, and those stones were there. And so each one of those stones we gave to the players and told the story of Joshua, and they kept those stones and they wrote their own one-word focus on their stone with a Sharpie. We go back to the high school and play our black and gold scrimmage that next day after the camp out. Everybody's kind of tired. We dig up home plate. We put the stones up under home plate, right? We put our goals and we laminate our team goals and our individual goals in a packet, and we laminate it and put those under home plate. Okay? We pack home plate back. And the kids didn't know this, but the coaches knew. If we were fortunate enough to play the last game of the year, we were going to paint home plate into the mascot of the other team that we're playing. And of course we don't play our final game on our home field. We play it at another site. So on the way when we won our last game. So we beat Spanish Fort state championship. And our MVP of the year, our pitcher that's throwing, he got MVP of the state finals. The whole time he's like, Coach, let's don't stop and eat at that restaurant that you talked about. Let's get back to the high school and let's use that gold standard hammer to bust up that home plate that had that emblem painted up. So they go back, they bust up home plate, they see their name and their one word focus. And then the whole time he was like, Coach, I think I achieved a lot of the goals that I set out for myself. He went 14-0 as a pitcher. He wanted to go 12. He wanted to go 12-0, so he ended up going 14-0. He wanted to win MVP of so he accomplished all these things that he did. And just to, like, I mean, chill bumps thinking about it because that was the night of the Heisman Trophy back in December the 12th that we went on that camp out.
Right.
Yet on May the 17th, he's talking about what we had buried under home plate. So kids are going to remember that forever.
Right.
And if you can tell a story, if you can create a philosophy, if you can get your players to think, who do we want to be and what do we want to be? We want to begin with an ending in mind. What do we want to be at the end of the year?
Right.
And you reverse dissect that back on what are we going to do today to make that happen? And then we were fortunate enough to make that happen. And it was a great experience for those kids. And those are the type things that show those kids that you care.
Right.
And some people might think like, that's crazy, but he's going to remember that forever. And those kids have those rocks. They'll take pictures of those rocks and show us, what they did with them. And we got pictures busting up home plate. And a lot of parents posted on social media. Everybody's like, what was y'all busting up home plate for? Well, it gives our players a chance to tell that story.
Sure.
The book of Joshua and the stones and the goals and the Iron Jacket Challenge and the camp out. And so that was really cool experience there. And we do a ton of stuff in our program, but that's one of the things that we do that I really appreciate. Sorry for being long-winded on that one.
No, that's okay. I mean, the whole thing is I want to hear you talk because a lot of this stuff that you're talking about is all good stuff. The one thing, though, that comes to mind for me is your program is year-round.
Yes.
It seems like it never ends.
Yeah. So that when those kids, they want to play summer ball, right? And a lot of our kids play on 3 or 4 different travel ball teams in our city or around our community. Well, it's at the end of the day, it's about the kid. So it's up to me to communicate with those coaches on those teams and what's best for the kid. And a lot of coaches like, oh, he's my player. It's not. He's a player, and we're trying to help him grow and be better. So I've got to reach out to those coaches and say, hey, he's going to play left field for us. He might play third base a little bit. He's not going to pitch next year. So they get an idea of what he's going to do for us next year. And then they'll ask me the same questions. Hey, has he ever caught before? Yeah, he was our, backup catcher on the JV team last year. So yeah, so at the end of the day, it's about the kid, and it's our jobs as coaches, whether it's a travel ball coach or instructor or your private, your strength and conditioning guy, your head baseball coach, it's our job to communicate together because at the end of the day, it's about that kid. Absolutely. If any one of us think that our way is the right way or we know it all, then that's where we're wrong. Same thing as pitchers and hitters. So as a pitcher, you got rest, you got sleep, you got recovery, you got nutrition, you got strength and conditioning, you got flexibility, you got, long toss, arm strength, how your body moves, functional movement screens. You got all these things that are right, like 16 spokes on a bike. Well, if any one of those, if you think only long toss is going to make you a better pitcher, well, then you're wrong. It's all 16 of those things. You can be the best pitcher in the country, but if you don't go to bed tonight, you're going to be tired 2 days later, and you're not going to be, your body's just not going to have that recovery time to your muscles are going to, grow and get better. So any like it's about, it's a village, and so you got to kind of take that angle and know and be humble enough to hear somebody else's opinion about it.
See, we don't have that type of, I'll say, advantage, okay? Because again, it seems like you work like year round with your program. We can't do that. I don't start working with my players
Yeah.
legitimately until the middle of March.
Well, see,
We
like our state does a good job too of not handcuffing us. They just don't want us to take players away from other sports. So we get 2 hours a week with our players in the fall.
I
Well,
I
that's not a
would
lot.
I would take that. I
Yeah,
get nothing.
so what I do is I go over the mental game piece and the leadership piece on Mondays and Wednesdays,
Yeah.
and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays we go out and do the 1 hour per week, and then on Friday we'll do the team competition. So we're not doing baseball things, but we're being around each other and we're learning and growing. We're supporting our team on Friday night, dressing up in the student section. You know, and so because if we go out and support football and basketball, they're going to come and support us. And if we can create a great environment, if I'm being who I'm supposed to be in the classroom, and my behavior is where it needs to be, and I'm doing what the teacher asked me to do, she's going to want to come to the game. But if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, or if I'm being a troublemaker or whatever, then nobody's going to want to come to watch you play.
Yeah. See.
So in today's world, bigger than anything, you're selling your brand as a freshman.
Yeah.
What you've got on social media, like
Oh yeah.
we're going to treat your arm like it's worth $1 million, and we're going to treat your personal brand like it's going to be worth millions one day, and we're going to educate them on how to do that. Because if you interview for a job when you're 22, or you go from a JUCO to a 4-year school, or somebody's going to take you in the first round of the draft for $1 million, they're going to research who is this guy that we're going to give $1 million to, and if they can't trust that because of their brand and the NIL, you got your NIL. So really, kids are selling their brand as a freshman, and so as coaches, it's our responsibility to how can we help this kid with his personal brand along the way. So there's a lot more to just pitching, catching, and
Oh,
throwing.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we touched on that before. That yeah, there's so much. I mean, let's face it. Being a coach is 95% of it is not the X's and O's. It's so much more than that. But yeah, like I said, we can't do anything with our players in the fall at all. Any classroom time I get with my players, I have to like use rain dates that we can't practice because it's raining. So we go into the classroom, we work on our mental stuff. I try to do mental stuff with them on the field, take a little bit of time out of practices and do it.
Yeah.
But I can't, I mean, I'm envious, we'll say that, because if I could work with my players from September, through the baseball season,
Yeah.
in, again, like you said, doesn't necessarily have to be baseball things. It could be team building things. But I think the way New York State looks at it is you don't know, like in October, you don't know who your players are, because how can you say that Johnny Smith is on your team? He hasn't tried out yet. Well,
Yeah.
we know who's going to be on our team, in the spring. We know the players.
That's right. So in the summer, we kind of you got the option. You can have one tryout a year, so you can try it after your season in May. You can try it in the fall, but like you say, you kind of know who you're going to have. You might add 2 or 3 per grade, or 1 or 2 per grade. So during the summer, we're allowed to practice our guys. We can't coach them, but we're allowed to practice our guys. So what I do is we lift on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays during the summer. We either have a makeup day, or we call them stud days. On Monday and Friday, I'm going to be here. If you show up on Monday and Friday, you're a stud, because or if you missed last Tuesday, you show up on next Monday or Friday. So what we'll do on Tuesday is we'll get here in the morning. We'll do a classroom meeting. I'll have a parent bring breakfast like sausage biscuits or protein bars, whatever. We'll go out and do our speed work, because I feel like if you can learn how to run, and you learn how your body moves, you can be a much better athlete. So we can do a lot of speed work, and which turns into our base running piece. Then we come from there. We go to the weight room. We do 2 heavy days and 2 speed workout days in the weight room. And we try to encourage to come on at least one stud day. But if you just hit three, then you'll do two speed and one heavy day. And then so after the weight room, the infielders will stay and do infield drills with Coach Shannon. He's our infield coach. After he gets finished with about 30 minutes of infield drills, then I'll hit with those infielders that stay. On Wednesday, the catchers will stay. I'll do catching drills, and after the catching drills, we'll hit. On Thursdays, the outfielders stay. During the middle of the week, based upon when you pitched on the weekend, you can do a midweek bullpen with us. Or if you did pitch on the weekend and you're not prepared to do a bullpen, then obviously you can skip or whatever. So our summers are really good. We get a lot of work during the summer, and we don't do anything with them on the weekends because 95% of our guys are playing
Right.
On the weekend. And then we go watch them, and they send us our schedule, and then we take turns as coaches going to watch our players, and then you build relationships with the college coaches that way, build relationships with the travel ball coaches that way, and we don't step on our football coach's toes. It's got his guys, like our leadoff hitter is our best receiver. He's a South Alabama baseball commit, but he's our leading receiver on the football team, and so we let him do his workout with football, and we marry it up to where he can come over and do his outfield drills and hitting, but he already did his workout in the weight room and on the field with football. So you don't want to be too tough on a kid. Like 3 hours is about as max as you want a kid to be on campus. If he's on campus longer than 3 hours, he starts to be, overwhelmed at what's going on and burn out.
Right.
And he might use down to one sport, but we want our kids to be multi-sport athletes in the end. So, and then the summer runs into the fall, and we have our parent meeting, and then camp out, and then our 2 hours a week, and all of our competition stuff, and it rolls right into the Iron Jacket Challenge, and then the season, the measurables that we do. It gives us a chance to talk about the measurables, and just a really fun environment.
Well,
and we've had fortunate enough to have some really good players come through here for the last 10, 15 years.
Right. I mean, well, it sounds like, from what you're explaining, sounds like a program that everybody would want to have. So it's a tribute to you and your coaching ability to be able to put something like that together. But we're just over an hour. Okay, so we're going to have to start wrapping up. But there's one other thing that I need to know before we go. Okay. And I'm looking at my phone because I've been talking to some people, and one of the things that I was told to talk to you about was looking in the rearview mirror when you're driving. So, and then I was told to ask you about getting the double bird from someone in Cary, North Carolina.
Oh my goodness. So one of my friends here, I paid him like $50 Venmo. I said, hey, my wife goes one direction to go to work, and I go the other direction. I bring my girls to school with me because they go to Oxford, and my wife teaches at Wellman still. So I paid this guy $50 Venmo to pick him up for 3 days in a row when we were working in TIS back in 2019. And so about the time that we leave to go to the field in Cary, North Carolina, we eat at the Embassy Suites, we're getting in the van, and I think I always get the rental van because my last name is Brooks, B alphabet, so they just look at the list of coaches. Okay, Brooks is first, Chaffin is next, or, somebody else with an A might get a minivan, and it's under our name. So they usually make that person the first person that lands, go to Enterprise, and come back. So, and get this now, you're getting the perspective of 6 different coaches in the backseat drivers. And if you got 6 men with egos behind you, and they're going to tell you I'm lying about this. But regardless of how great of a driver I am, and I did grow up, and I still live 10 minutes from Talladega Racetrack. But that's besides the point. So regardless of how good of a driver I am, there's 6 different points of views of when I need to get over, hey, turn here, don't turn there, go to Starbucks, let's get to the field, we're going to be late, all this, right? So over the years, it was a running joke that one day I'm slow and you think about the excitement. You just saw the best 12-year-old left-handed pitcher in the country. I'm wanting to talk about it with my guys. They can pull up their notes but I'm driving. I have to pay attention. I have to listen to Siri, tell me where to turn. I got music blasting, and these kids, we're talking about players, so I'm driving slow. Well, the guy behind me is beeping the horn, and he's making fun of me, and then we get down to our lunch and Wes, why are you driving too slow? Blah, blah, blah. Or the next time I'm driving too fast or whatever it is. So all these stories have been told about my driving. And so at breakfast that morning in 2019, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've been the driver of the minivan. And I was a driver this past summer at training camp too, at 12U training camp. So, and again, I'd say it's Brooks, and I'll take a screenshot of my rental and I'll send it over to the guy. So, anyways, so Jeff Sherman, Jim Maciuski, I can't remember who else, but Matt Plante, 2 or 3 other guys were in the car this is their first time to ride with me. And 2 or 3 other guys are telling these bad driving stories, and here we go again, and blah, blah, blah. So I come out of the Embassy Suites and take a ride. My phone rings. It's my wife saying, Josh isn't here to take the girls to school. So that's a pretty big deal, because I'm trying to, work, drive, but back home, I got to make something happen in a quick moment, right? So I put it on speakerphone. Siri, called my brother, said, hey, can you pick up my kids at the gas station? My wife's going to meet you, carry them to school. Oh, sure, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to call Josh, figure out I'm driving, trying to listen to Siri. There's turn left, turn right. So I just say, okay, and I get in the right lane and honk. Right there next door, they're honking, and they're giving me the double bird.
Yeah.
Plante and Jim, they're like, oh, my gosh, like, y'all are serious. This is, Wes is a bad driver. So that was really unlucky for them. Well, same day, we're leaving the park. And as much as I've been to Cary, North Carolina, I hate to say it, I've got to have Siri to tell me where to turn, right? So Siri wasn't telling me. Or maybe she wasn't. It was just take a left here at the red light. And we're in a neighborhood. It was take a left at the stop sign. And we're in a neighborhood. And the neighborhood had a divider, but I couldn't see the other part of the median. So I turned down the wrong way. And either Jim or Matt Plant, they flip out. But there's nothing coming. And I go to where there's an open divider, and I turn in there and go on. And so there's a story, and you can imagine it's about 13 minutes back to the hotel. So no matter what, if I stay too long at the stop sign, they're yelling at me. If I move too quick, they're saying I ran the stop sign. If I don't, if you don't do your 68 things you're supposed to do at a red light, then they're on me, So I play the part now as I play the part that I can't drive now.
I was just going to say that you're not going to be able to get rid of that reputation. That's stuck with you.
So,
that's it.
So a shout out to Dave Webb. Over the years, he's been the best DJ I've ever had. And I call him Navigator Dave too, because he was also the one that would turn down the music like, hey, you got to turn here. So DJ Navigator Dave. So we have some really good times together in the van, and it's just a joke. And the guys are going to lie to you. The guys are going to say, no, Wes is a bad driver. Don't Greg hadn't got a ticket. And, I grew up next to, 10 minutes down the road from Talladega, so I can handle high pressure situations. And it's just a running joke, I guess, and so I sat in the back seat one time, and I'm yelling at the guy like, hey, what are you doing? Stop right here, turn right here. You're in the wrong lane. So there's 6 different egos in there telling you how to drive in the first.
I mean, I believe I yell at my wife all the time for that, because I'm driving and I'm planning on doing something, and it, she'll no, turn here, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? I'm gonna hit somebody.
And on top of that, I'm colorblind. So they'll say, turn right here where that red house is, or what, and I'll miss it, and but every now and then you'll get a good one. Every now and then you'll get a good navigator in there. Jelly. Oh man, Ellison, that we call Jelly.
Yep.
He is the absolute best, and he doesn't need Siri. He doesn't need his GPS or anything. He'll just tell me where to go and where to turn, and he's really spot on. And so we had some good times. It's kind of a running joke. But.
Well, listen, September, you're heading down to Honduras. I wish you guys all the luck in the world. I mean, I know you're going to do well, and I'm looking for a gold medal back on. Just going to be honest with you. I'm looking for a gold.
That's the standard. Going into this thing, we talk so much about relationships, but we're judged on, the success or failure of that end goal. So the tough piece as coaches, Roger and Jelly and Brian and myself, is to get that one heartbeat of the team in a short amount of time.
It's hard.
Pick the right players to take them to another country and get them to buy into one another and be the best teammate in the country, because the best shortstop in the state of Louisiana might play every other game in right field for us.
That's
And
right.
he's got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
If he's not okay with that, he's going to rub elbows to the other guy on the bench in the dugout. And so for us to pick the right players, and that's the thing, like, you hear stories of some guys cutting some big time names in years past, but at the time we gotta get who we feel is the right players, because when you get down to the top 36 or the 24, everybody's good at that level.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to right pieces of the puzzle and what we think, and we got to go to war with those guys and give ourselves an opportunity to play for a gold medal. And that's all we can ask for. And things we do on a daily basis. The game knows, the game of baseball knows, the game of life knows. If you're treating it right, respecting it right, treating your teammates right, respecting your teammates, when it gets down to it, the game of baseball knows, can this team handle a gold medal?
You're
Are
right.
they going to go things after they win a gold medal and not be great humans afterwards? Or because the game of life and the game of baseball knows those answers.
Yeah.
And if we're treating the game right and treating our teammates right and respecting it right, then that ball will be 2 inches fair or 2 inches foul.
Yeah.
The safe call or out call. So if you teach it in a way that the game knows, and the game of baseball knows, the game of life knows whether you're doing what you're supposed to do or not, and it will reward you in its own time, not when you're ready, but when the game knows that you're ready to handle that success or failure.
No
and
doubt.
so you earn that right to step on top of that gold medal stand and hear your national anthem called after the last game. And I'm getting chill bumps just
Yeah.
thinking about the opportunity. But it's a great challenge. It's going to be difficult, and we've got to attack it like it's, because it is. It's everybody against us. All those teams are wanting to beat the United States, and we got a tough task but we're gonna go out there and be warriors.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. You're going to have 18 players and you're going to have 4 coaches that I'm putting my money on. Okay, so you're not going to find a better situation to go and get it. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And like I said, when you guys are down in Honduras, I'm going to be watching. So.
Right. Well, next time we get on here, maybe we can talk a little more X's and O's. I enjoy doing that too. I know I talked about the relationship piece, but I enjoy talking about talking X's and O's too.
Well,
but I just think it's a big piece of the puzzle that people tend to miss, that you don't always hear people talking about, is that relationship, the mindset, and the mental game too.
Wes, I got to tell you, I don't spend a lot of time on this show talking about X's and O's. I don't. I spend
Good.
more time talking about what you and I just went over, because, again, I've said it before, that's the important part. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast almost 4 years ago was because I want to reach the lower level coaches to make them understand what a guy like you thinks and how you go about your coaching, because let's face it, and maybe it's just a bad rap at lower level coaches that they just want to win. They don't care about anything.
And I'll say this. I met with a group of coaches. You're going to laugh. I met with a group of coaches for 9 hours on a Saturday one time. There was 4 guys, and it was probably 10, 15 years ago. I could tell there was one coach that was bought into what we were doing, about it's the way we do them in the relationships, and you got to do them the right way. And it's not about the win. Those wins are going to come, but you got to do them the right way first.
Yeah.
And so they went like 10 and 41 that summer with their little 10-year-old travel ball team. The next year, they're like 22 and 25. That third year, they start. But as assistant coaches, we're still fighting. We need to go play in these easier tournaments so that we can experience some winning. It's like, no, we're going to play tough competition, and we're going to focus on the process, not the outcome. And next thing you know, 4 or 5 years down the road, and then those – and I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag, but those kids were our 2023 seniors.
There you go.
That graduated,
There
and
you
what
go.
a great experience. And they were fortunate enough to, at 10 years old, have some guys in their life that just poured into them. And that's what it takes. We won a state championship in 2012, and those kids and those dads And those travel ball coaches, like, invested a lot of time into those guys. And when those guys tried out as seventh graders, that was my first year here in '05. And we kept 24 seventh graders on our team that year.
Wow.
And cut about 50, because that's where the level of baseball was in this city. And man, it was great. It was awesome.
Sure.
It was sad because I cut Taylor McCracken as a seventh grader and eighth grader on that 2012 team. He made the team as a ninth grader. He batted leadoff for us as a senior, and he's freshman All-American at Birmingham Southern. So, and that's the story I tell to some of these 12-year-old kids that did not make the training camp, extended training camp roster. You didn't get cut. You're close. And if you use this as motivation, great things can happen, like Taylor McCracken being freshman All-American and Birmingham Southern and batting leadoff on the state championship team. So, but again, it takes coaching a while to kind of get that, because everybody else at your work and on the newspaper and the media, they post the win and they post the loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you feel like you're talked about, and I had to learn this too. You feel like everybody's talking about you, and really nobody's talking about you. It's your own self. Right. Like, is everybody talking about us losing last night? No. If you're doing what you're supposed to do and treating those kids right, you're winning no matter what the scoreboard says.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this year, the program that I took over, it's going to be a battle for me. I'm their fifth head coach in 5 years, so there's really nothing there. Wow. But I got to tell you something. We started out slow. It didn't bother me because this is what I expected. I knew that this is the way it's going to go. We, had a very tough, I would say, first 2/3 of the season. We won 4 out of our last 5 games. Okay. This is a process. And I try to make people understand that this is going to take time. You don't just come in and all of a sudden throw, 9 kids out on the field and you start winning baseball games. It doesn't happen that way. You got to coach them. So,
that's right.
So, I mean, I could talk all night. We're actually on an hour and 20 minutes.
Let's go.
So, once again, I thank you so much for coming on, and
Absolutely.
We'll stay in touch.
Yeah. Good to meet you, Jimmy, and look forward to working with you down the road, maybe even a Zoom call with your team one day.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I mean, now you just opened up a can of worms.
Let's go now. I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm not like I'll be honest with you. Like, if I'm ever in the neck of the woods, I wouldn't mind coming by. I'm not on the field now, so I got to get my fingers dirty somehow, right?
Well, believe me, now you opened up a can of worms, because I'm gonna think. The first opportunity I get, you're gonna get a text from me. Hey, Wes, what do you think about talking to the boys?
Absolutely. And get Roger and Jelly on here and then let them tell their story too. They got amazing stories, and I'm just fortunate enough to be around Brian and those guys, and even our director, Cole Beaker. He's a stud. He's a rock star.
Well, we have
the intern got working with us too. Jack Breezy and Brady Laxman too. They're rock stars as well.
Yeah, we have Jelly's coming on Monday and Roger's coming on next Thursday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Brian and I actually spoke about while you guys are in Honduras. I think we may do a show with everybody together.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the pictures that I posted, if you go back and look on social media, with Doug Sheets was doing a podcast with Doug, myself, and Tanner and Butch.
Okay.
That night, Sheets had driven up from Georgia Gwinnett. I think he had the job at that time, but he was still doing the ABCA podcast. So he drives up to North Carolina, does the podcast, spends the night, and drives back to Georgia.
That's great.
Just to kind of, because we were all there, so it was really cool. And just hear Doug was so nervous. You probably saw me post. He was like, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know. But once he got rolling, he started talking about the barn and started talking about this left-handed pitcher and hitter named Dylan Atkins he was working with. So Dylan turned out to be a great player. So.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, he had mentioned it to me, and when he said it, I just said, yes, let's do that.
Good deal.
So,
well, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thanks again, Wes. Enjoy the rest of the night, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye now. It looks like I'm going to have to wrap this one up quick. We got to talking and lost track of time, and this is a long one, but you want to know something? It's full of a lot of good stuff. So listen, look up Coach Brooks, Wes Brooks. You can find him on X. And don't forget to follow us on X, Facebook. And like I've been saying lately, check out our new website, thectbshow.net. And you know what, everybody? This was a great show. I enjoyed it. And it further hammers home that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.